All right, week 14 recap. We are two-thirds of the way complete with our season, starting with our results from last week. I got a last second win over Casey's 9-7. JW with a 9-6-1 win over Frank, which means he's won 6 out of 7. Brad beats Corey 9-7. Jeremiah beats French 10-6. Bo with a big win. Really nice week, VTL wise. 11-3-2 over presumably playoff hopeful Maffey, so it's a big blow. And then Nate with a 14-2. Very nice performance. 26 home runs, 69 RBIs, 530 slugging, and pitching wasn't bad at all either. Massive week for Nate. Let's look at the standings here. They've changed a little bit. Nate is back in lead, 4.5 games up on me, and I'm 11 games above Frank. So the top two perhaps starting to distance themselves a little bit. I had actually taken first last week, but with that giant win from Nate and just that kind of so-so win for me, he takes it back. And Frank, yeah. Frank's still sitting kind of in prime position for the playoffs, provided he does not sell. And then Alex, JW, Maffey, and Casey are all very close to each other, 25.5 to 32 games back. Any one of them could still miss, though my money has been on Alex and Maffey previously, but I think JW is making a really hard to deny case. 6 out of 7 wins, and the numbers are starting to look a lot better from that beginning stretch in the season where things just kind of inexplicably were not going well. Bo's big win puts him now just 3.5 back of 7th, which I assume is Bo's goal. Probably not trying to sneak into the playoffs in particular. It'd probably be better to get one of those top couple picks. So there should be a healthy amount of competition for that 7 spot. Casey's sitting there now. Still not sure if Casey knows if he wants to go or stay in 7th or try to sneak into the playoffs and finally make it. But yeah, a lot of competition still on the bottom half as well as the top half, I think. So I think we still have several good weeks left in us. Here is a look at the latest win streaks. Let me blow it up a little bit. So I've won 3 in a row. JW's won 2 in a row. Bo has won 2 in a row. No one else with multiple winning weeks in a row. Alex, Casey, and French have each lost 2 in a row. Everyone else basically is just kind of normal. A look at our actual VTL numbers. Nate with an insane offensive week. I think it was one of the best of all time. He takes the #1 offense back from me. And so the two of us are the only two teams that are above 500, if you will. Like that 6th to 7th rank is the midway point. So I'm second in batting, first in pitching. He's first in batting. He's fourth in pitching. We're the only two teams that are above average in both. So it's pretty clearly 1-2, I think, right now. VTLs bear that out as well. I'm still in the lead VTL wise, but Nate's also won 12 out of 13 weeks, I believe. Pretty hard to deny. Coming off a loss last week, I still put myself right at the top. First time in a while. He took it right back. 14-2, dominant win over another contender. Nate is probably the team to beat right now. I don't think probably is. He's the team to beat. And he hasn't even bought in yet. So that's the scary part. So yeah, these are the VTLs. They are what they are. Frank is distanced himself from the rest of the pack. But I think at this point in the season, the initial wave of VTL from JW, for example, is 47%. Looks a lot better in the second third of the season. 50%. Alex was dragged down by some really bad weeks early. Luckily, we now have a full set of the first 7 weeks and now the second set of 7 weeks. So the first third and the second third, I call those T1 and T2. We'll look at the comparison between T1 and T2 at this video before we're done. And so let's just scroll over real quick. Here's the luck. Kind of the same story. Jeremiah's luck has actually normalized a lot. Hasn't helped his case, and he doesn't care probably for this week. My luck has also increased greatly. I'm now right up there with the luckiest team in the league, me and Frank. Corey's luck's still been pretty bad. Let's look at some of the individual percentiles for this week. So yeah, Nate had the 5th most home runs ever, the 11th most RBIs ever. Pretty crazy. The actual total VTL was really, it was good, but it wasn't amazing. So 319. Uh, I misspoke earlier, I guess, right? That's an 80th percentile result. But the home runs, the RBIs, the slugging, they were just elite. The walks really sucked, which is weird. And the strikeouts sucked. So that's why it wasn't like an all-timer total kind of week. But yeah, a very impressive week from Nate offensively. JW was even better across the board. That is, there were basically no holes except, I guess, stolen bases. But JW above the 80th percentile in basically 4 things, above the 70th percentile in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the 8 categories. That's pretty good. And that's not VTL or whatever. This is just the percentile result across all 1,500 plus results that we've had. And yeah, pitching wise, a couple massive saves weeks. Myself and JW both with 9, which is tied for 11th most ever. A couple people went for the 7th most quality appearances ever, which I think that was French and Casey. Yeah, that's probably all the interesting stuff we've got, really. Let's look at the tiers. So I have Nate and myself at the top, still the favorites. Playoff locks, Frank, and I'm still leaving Alex here for one more week. I mean, if another convincing loss, which would be to me if it was to happen this week, another convincing loss might bump him down, but I still think the core is really nice. He's bought in. I expect his VTL numbers are only going to get better with the new talent that he's got. Playoff likely. JW's on the fringe of having to be moved into a locks, but like the standings still don't see him as a lock because he's still right there in the fray. And Alex has dropped down there too now after this week. So call this me just thinking maybe Alex has a little higher ceiling right now than JW, but JW has been mowing people down. So no disrespect intended to JW. He's doing really well. One more big week, and he could very well come up here into the lock section as well. Maffey still feels like a playoffs likely kind of team, although there's been some inconsistencies there. Casey, French, and a new addition, Bo and Brad in the Otani chase. Bo had an incredible week. I don't think I even touched on it. Sorry, Bo. Let's look. So yeah, Bo had an 88th percentile week, 193rd best week of all time out of 1,600 results. The pitching was just phenomenal, and he even had some pretty high marks in a few categories in batting. So Bo's going to F around and make the playoffs, perhaps at this rate. I mean, the standing, he is 6.5 back of the playoffs. It might be too good for his own good. We know he's selling, and so last week I had him in the looking to 2026 category, but the record is so good that it's definitely possible for him to enter the Otani chase. He's right there. And he had a hell of a week this week, so you never know. Here's a look at the last 5 weeks numbers and upcoming schedule. Nate is the best team over the last 5 weeks in terms of record, the 3rd best in terms of VTL. So Frank's gotten quite unlucky here. He's the 2nd best VTL of the last 5 weeks, but only just a little bit over 500. And this is a little bit of a skewed stat, like it could be he just was incredible one week, and that really skews when you're only looking at a sample size of 5. That really skews things. It could be that maybe it wasn't domination, the whole rest of the 5-week stretch. But still, you'd hope if you're a 2nd best VTL in the league, you'd hope to be a little more than just over 500. So I'll call that a little bit unlucky. I'm going to pause real quick, and we're going to shift over to next part of the video. All right, so forgive me for not making this more easy to understand and look at, but this is the gist of what we're going to talk about. Weeks 1 through 7, here are the VTL numbers. And I know it might be a little bit small because there's so much information on the screen, but you can see the total VTLs are here. Nate was the best through week 7 at a 59.7% BTL. I was next at 57, and third best was just 52.76, followed very closely by Alex, Maffey, and Corey. So there was kind of 6 distinctly good teams at that time. Batting wise, you could see the breakdown here. Nate was actually Jeremiah was number one. He had just an torrid start to the season. Nate was right behind him, then French, then Frank, then myself, and then pitching. Alex was the best team from that stretch, followed very closely by me, Maffey, and Corey, and then Nate not too far behind that. What I've got in front of you here over on this side is the weeks 8 through 14 VTL, just weeks 8 through 14. So you're talking 1 through 7 are here, and then 8 through 14 here, right side by side. And there's a column for both pitching and batting and total that will show you what the percent change is. Don't know why these ones are not formatted like the others. Let me really quickly look at that. Okay, yeah, don't know why those other ones are not formatted, so let me just fix it real quick. That's not behind the scenes action right here. Okay, I should have noticed that. So here is the VTL weeks 8 through 14, and I think maybe easier to digest is this number. What is the percent change in the total VTL? So if you know nothing else, right here, 7.95% in the green, that means that this number from JW is almost 8% better than it was from T1. So the T2 numbers are what we're seeing here. You could maybe even like call this T2, you call this T1. It looks clunky over there, but here you go. So here's the difference. So Bo, much better in T2 than in T1, 7.3%. JW, much better in T2 as opposed to T1, 51.6%, up from 43%. That's 8% difference. Nate, considerably worse. He was 59% total VTL. The last 7 weeks, he has only been 54% VTL. I say only, that's still third best, but that's pretty far cry from me, 60.5. So Nate's clearly not trending the right direction. It's not stopping him from winning games, but I think this is a really interesting point in the season to take a look. We're used to seeing teams that win acquire talent, and these numbers really start to balloon a lot. Um, and so these numbers may look very different from weeks 15 to 21 after super teams or whatever form that takes this year set in. And I expect that that will happen, um, especially with teams like Alex, who just got 5% worse over the last 7 weeks compared to the original 7. And I expect that to tick up. I won't be surprised at all. JW should continue to tick up. I know he's going to try to get more guys too, I'm sure. He's already locked in, as is Alex, as am I. It'll be really interesting to watch. Does Frank get in the fray? He's gotten 3% better just naturally without making any real moves. Maffey's gotten 3% worse. So will he decide to jump in? I don't know. Casey has bought, but is actually worse over the last 7 weeks by 2.5%. These aren't huge changes individually, but it's just an interesting sign to see the trends, right? And then specifically, if you want to look pitching versus batting, what has changed? For example, the big jump in JW, his pitching has improved by 0.4% VTL, basically the exact same, but his batting has gone 15.5% VTL better, which was his game plan coming into the season, right? He was an offense first kind of team that's going to scrap together pitching how he can. And it's looking a lot more like that in weeks 8 through 14. I would dare to say, too, that the last 5 weeks in particular have been even better than the last 7 weeks. I think he seems to have really hit the stride. I think coalescing this week was a really, really nice week. Bo's offense has been equally improved. Started a little bit from a worse point even than JW. They were the two worst offensive VTLs by a ton. So it's natural in some ways that they might regress towards the mean, but clearly for JW at least, this is kind of what we would have expected to see. For Bo, it's a little bit surprising, I have to say. A lot of prospects have gotten the call. Maybe a few of them are actually performing and helping boost the numbers. But Bo has largely sold. So for him to be 7% improved after getting theoretically getting worse, um, pretty neat. And it really bodes well for the Otani chase, like I already talked about. Any other interesting numbers here? Corey's pitching was excellent first half or first third in T1, 58%. It's dropped to 47%. That's an alarming drop, but he's traded DeGrom recently. I think he's traded someone else that's decent. Still, that's a pretty big drop. I touched on Nate dropping on both sides of the ball. Jeremiah has been the weirdest example. Dominant offense, the best in T1 to the worst in T2. Doesn't make any sense. And the worst pitching in T1, all of a sudden up to the second best pitching in T2. Can't make that up. That's just crazy. Yeah, Brad has gotten worse on both sides of the ball. Probably time for him to start looking at selling, I should think. He already sold Glass now, but I think it's unlikely that this is going to lead to a championship this year. So he's probably one of the last ones going to get in the fray. And yeah, Casey's batting has gotten 5% is not insignificant. The pitching has been basically the same, but the batting's gotten significantly worse. So that's a bit troubling. And then on my side, I was the second best pitching team. My pitching's basically stayed right there, but I've added 7.3% VTL to batting. And that's a big change, of course. That's the fourth biggest change in a positive direction of anyone's stats. So I'm feeling good about that. But yeah, more or less, I stayed kind of almost where I was. Anyways, we have 1 week here and then the big All-Star week. Just remember, you just need 50 innings. I'm going to extend the transactions out to 10 so that you can make the same amount of transactions based on a calendar week as normal. You'll have 10 to make instead of 5, but you only need 50 innings. So it's a really big week for folks who have a couple aces, but maybe not the deepest staff. Bad week to play JW, who I happen to be playing. He's got 3 aces. He'll probably get double starts from all 3 of them. What can you do? Yeah, trade deadline is going to be end of July. I think it's like the next Sunday. So I think that's August 3rd, if I recall. And I will be out of the country. So we will see if someone else can do the approvals on all of those moves. But yeah, that should be fun. I'm sure we're gonna have a lot of moves coming up here in the next couple weeks as teams kind of solidify what they want to do. It's a good time, fun time in the league. So we'll see what happens.